how humble I am. We have not arrived. But the God, the understanding, if I have a huge understanding, like huge circle, what I know is in that circle, but what I don't know is vast, because that big circle, and that person will be humble because they realize there's an awful lot that they don't know. But we're living in the time, Daniel spoke of the end time. A profound revelation, I'm reading and praying Daniel, because he's speaking of today. And the Lord is beginning to open our understanding, beginning to reveal things. There's an impartation within us. And if I'm going to fit within that wheel that's beginning to function and move, if I can, it's going to take a reduction in my life. That's preparation. I'm being reduced that I can fit within that wheel. So I'm going to read a verse, and it's in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 13. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13. There's a service this afternoon, so I'm going to be careful about my time. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13. Until we all come in the unity of the faith of the knowledge of the Son of God unto a word perfect there speaks of mature. It means mature. Not perfect in the sense of something being flawless or a second. Not in that sense. But it speaks of maturity unto the measure of the stature. That measure of the stature means that I will fit. I will be compatible with the Lord. I'm being brought to that level of compatibility with the Lord, where I will fit within the wheel and become. Now I've said this, I've been saying this in the meetings, and some of you that haven't been here, you'll have to think about this one. Jesus came in his first coming, he moved in tremendous miracles, signs and wonders. And he said at one point in his ministry that we would do, that which we would do in the end time, in the last days, would be greater. It would be greater than what he did. Not greater in the sense that we could do something beyond what he did, but greater in the sense it'll be a corporate body. Jesus is taking his headship of a corporate body. And this is the statement. All that Jesus did in a single body, he's about to do in a corporate body. So the things that he did in a single body are going to begin happening all over the world. Not that there's television or mirrors or something, like's been taught. But it's a corporate body of which Jesus has taken his headship, and he's beginning to do in that corporate body what he did in a single body. That's the wheel within the wheel, and we have to fit. And there's that reduction, and some of us wonder what's going on. Why the intensity of the dealings that never seem to end? The word says, whom the Lord loves, he chastens. Well, I like that because whom the Lord loves. So if I'm corrected, I can be encouraged because it's whom the Lord loves that's being corrected. But then the word says, that every son that he receives, he scourges. That's vicious. So finally, I've been chastened and corrected, and I'm doing everything right, and I think things are going to get better. And instead, they get worse. Why? Because I'm becoming a son, and he's going to scourge me. Now, a person that's scourged will confess to just about anything. That's right. And we're being emptied out of our self-life. It's being exposed totally. And it's being dealt with that we can become the expression of not our life, but of what? His life. That's the wheel within the wheel. That the greater wheel will be seen through our lives because we're within that life and it's finding expression through our life. That's the wheel within the wheel that's going to begin to function. See, unto the measure. Why? Because we got to fit. We have to fit, and the Lord understands that, and we're being brought into that alignment. The cost is high. We've not arrived. We're not there. I put a lot of weight on intervention, and that intervention is coming at a specific moment of time. We're not there yet. The world says rapture. What I say is intervention. We're going to be caught up into a higher realm, the overcomer, those that are being prepared. And there'll come that impartation of the corporate body of Jesus that will begin to function in the earth in that capacity. And the world is laughing at the church today. At that day, they will tremble before the church. They will tremble. Now, the measure of the stature. John 14, verse 1. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, chapter 14, verse 2. Was in a meeting way back. This would have been 1959. A man named Ira Stamphill had written a song. I've got a mansion just over the hilltop. And if you listen to the song, that if you're better than me, you'll have a bigger mansion than I will. And if I'm better than you, I'll have a bigger mansion than you will. Well, he sang it for the first time publicly, the first time it had ever been sung. I sat there and listened to him sing it for the first time. I've got a mansion. Well, that's really not what that's a beautiful song. I haven't heard it in a long time. But that's not what it's, in my Father's house are many mansions. That word mansions there has to do with a level of relationship. It has to do with a level. Salvation's a free gift. I had owned at one time a television cable system back in the 1950s. No one understood then what cable systems would become, but I owned one. I sold it and people told me I was absolutely crazy. If I had stayed there and the Lord had not meddled, I'm sure he would have. He has a way. If the Lord had not meddled, I would have been a multi-millionaire today. And someday I would stand before the Lord, and the Lord would say, "Well done, Wade Taylor, you've supplied television to thousands of people." And that would have been just about it. I would not be here. You might be here, but somebody else would be up here, not me. I would not be here. I'd be sitting on a telephone pole someplace, which I used to spend a lot of time doing. It was interesting. I used to sit on telephone poles quite a bit and work on the cable system. But I wouldn't have known what I know. I'm working on a book called The Ministries of the Kingdom. It has to do with the closing out of the church age and setting up the millennial kingdom. And one of these days it'll get finished and be available. But it's coming by pure revelation. What I'm writing, I've never heard. But you see, there's something in that day. If I had persisted and gone that way, there would have been no Bible school that's behind that. I was there 28 years. Lives were touched from all over the world and ministries established. I wouldn't be here. I would not know what I know. My life would have been, I was saved, and I would have stood there in the grace of God, someplace, but way far from where I might have been. Talked about certain destinies or callings, the higher calling, but we have to choose that and give ourselves to it. It's costly because there are things that we have to give up that are absolutely legitimate and God-given, but there's something better. And those that are seeking the better will pay that price. The Lord, I would like to hear this: well done, not much done. It's interesting, to all 7 churches, the first thing the Lord said is, "I know your works." Because all 7, he said, "I know your works." Because we somehow measure ourselves by what we do. And the Lord measures us by what we've become, the measure of the stature of his image. He checks us against that. So it's not much done, it's what? Well done, good, godly, faithful servant. Well done, not much done, well done. Whatever I do, there's no reward for what I do. That's given by the Lord. The reward is for my faithfulness to what He's given me to do. It's well done. So in my Father's house are many, what? Levels. That's an accurate translation. There are many levels of relationship. And how far up I go from level to level is determined by my obedience, my heart obedience to the Lord, my receptivity, my sensitivity to His voice. And I choose that. There are many levels. Now, Revelation chapter 3, I've used this an awful lot, but it's powerful. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. In Genesis, what I read earlier, they heard the voice of the Lord walking. In Revelation, He's knocking because of the lateness of the hour. I stand at the door. That's absolute. The door, that's our spirit. The Lord's desire to lead us into these higher levels of relationship. Salvation's a free gift. And I could have kept the cable system and become rich in this world's goods and still been saved. But I would have arrived as a spiritual baby, never having developed and grown, never having come in or understanding. There would have been no capacity. See, in time we develop a capacity for eternity. And that capacity will find its full release and outworking in eternity, and I'm being prepared for that here. That's more important than anything else. I stand at the door, that which leads into this higher dimension. The next part, we have a part in this. If anyone hears, and that's why I pray that constantly, Lord, no matter how good I hear the voice of the Lord, I want to hear your voice better, beyond what I'm hearing today. No matter how good I hear, I can hear better. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, and I'm just going to share a couple things about this in the very limited time we have. If anyone hears and what? Opens the door, I will come in. This is Parousia. Parousia, the presencing of the Lord. I will come in. This speaks of the manifest presence of the Lord. This is at the end of the message to the 7 churches. At the end, this is a present word. In a greater measure, no other generation had this opportunity of the Parousia, the presencing of the Lord, the corporate Jesus, beginning to function through a corporate body. No other generation had that. This is an end time, a last day word. I will come in and will sup with him and he with me. This speaks of his manifest presence. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne. As a bride, I'm yielded to his headship in obedience to the head. As a son, as a bride, I'm yielded and I become one with him in relationship. As a son, I become one with him, the wheel within the wheel, in a cooperative relationship. And I enter into that. Notice that this says, if anyone hears, to go further in the Lord, to come into these higher levels of his presence, are always conditional. You are my disciples if anyone will take up their cross. If, always condition. So then, the deeper levels of relationship are always conditional. Our part is to hear and respond. The Lord will test the waters. He'll check with us. And he'll often show up and knock on our heart